Hi there, what's up everybody? My name's Jeremy Siskin, and these books are my books, Playing Solo Jazz Piano Fundamentals. You can grab them from jeremysiskin.com right now, and you will have eternal happiness just by having them sit there on the shelf. Today, I want to talk to you and tell you about what I think might be the greatest piano solo fill of all time. It's an Oscar Peterson solo fill. From his recording of The Days of Wine and Roses from We Get Requests. And I know so many great jazz musicians who are obsessed with this recording, We Get Requests, and I am definitely among that number because it's just so grooving and sounds beautiful. Every single track, just completely original and fun to listen to. But I've also just been obsessed with this solo fill for a very, very long time, and I want to show it to you, break it down, and then show you some of the interesting lessons that we can learn from this solo fill. Okay, so if you can imagine the end of The Days of Wine and Roses. One more time. Triplets, but everything here is within a triplet subdivision. So there you go. Everything's da 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 ba da da ba da da ba da ba da ba da ba ba da. Okay, so super fun, super bluesy, super funky. So just to do a quick analysis here, this is using the blues scale, or we might even say that the beginning is using the F minor pentatonic scale. And here, let's go this way. If you're not familiar with these scales, the F minor pentatonic, of course, has 5 notes, which is why we call it pentatonic. And the F blues scale is the exact same scale, but adds a 6th note between the 4th and 5th scale degrees. So it's this one that's different. So when I say, well, maybe it's one, maybe it's the other, they're basically the same scales. But we don't hear that B natural until here, and we're going to talk about the context of that in just a sec. Okay, this first measure is kind of interesting because it plays the same lick twice with a variation. So both beats 1 and 2 and beats 3 and 4 have the same the same outline, but what's super cool is that the second half adds in a high note to kind of stoke the tension a little higher. Okay, so that's somewhat self-explanatory. The second half is where, to me, it really gets fun. And so it's fun for 2 really good reasons. The first one's pretty easy to understand, which is that we have this chromatic ascent between the minor third and the 5th. And this is interesting and fun and important because it is a very common gesture in the blues. And it is something that Oscar Peterson does all the time. For instance, if you ever heard Oscar Peterson's blues etude, it goes like this. So that blues etude, the melody is 1, 2, ba, do, 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 do. So again, it's that same gesture connecting the minor third to the 5th. And this is a great thing for you all out there to practice in a blues context. notice that Oscar Peterson does something pretty nifty, which is that he puts notes in between the notes of the chromatic ascent. So, right, A flat F, A F, B flat F, B F. So you can try that. You can put notes above, below. Right there, I'm going down to F, up to F, down to F, up to F. Okay. So that's the first thing cool. I've got two more things cool. The second thing is rhythmically, right? So we're in triplets, and yes, we have kind of a 2-note grouping. What I mean by that is that we have an F and then a dyad, which means just a 2-note pair, and then an F, a dyad, F, dyad, F, dyad. And so this is implying 2 against 3. These are groups of 2, but within kind of this 3 meter. And of course, if you want to think about it even more deeply, the 3 is going against 4, right? Because these are triplets in a 4/4 measure. So there's kind of layers upon layers of polyrhythms. Or we might more correctly than polyrhythms call them hemiolas, right? Hemiolas refer to groupings of notes that don't fit evenly into the overall phrases. And so I would encourage you to think about how else we could do that. Like, right, we could, for instance, do a scale pattern going up in thirds. So something like this. But if we play it in triplets, we're going to be creating kind of a funky rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Or we could try going up in sixths. And again, we're going to do this in triplets. So even though they're 2-note groupings, they're forming kind of a funky 2 against 3 feeling. So 2, 3, 4. Right? Very interesting. And, this brings up the question of, well, could we try other even note groupings against triplets, right? We could try, for instance, what if we played 7th chords, so 4 notes total, but we played them as triplets? Pretty interesting idea. Right, so I'm playing. Did I do that right? Nope, the next note would be a B flat. Oh, I didn't even need that B flat. Okay, so now we get 1, 2, 3, and. Pretty cool. I really like it. Another really simple thing to do would be just, what if we repeated notes? We repeated every note twice of the scale. Right now, these are all triplets. 3, 4. Right? Pretty neat. So Oscar Peterson's using this 2 against 3 kind of pattern in order to create really interesting rhythmic tension. The last thing that's cool is his use of double notes. Right? So you might notice that there's an F over each of these double notes. Or I should say there's an F above each of the notes that are ascending chromatically. Generally in the blues, and I should probably do a longer video about this at some point, but I kind of think the most common double notes are going to be these 3. So it's going to be the root, the 6th, or the flat 3. And the 6th is probably the most interesting one because it's not a member of that blues scale. And sometimes we choose the 5th instead of the 6th. And at this point, maybe this will work. Let's see. Cool. And so using these 3 double notes, the third, the root, and then the sixth, what I like to do is practice playing the blues scale holding a double note above these other notes. And I shouldn't have skipped past that, but the word above is super important here, because the number one mistake that I see students making with double notes is that they'll try to put them below the main melody, and it doesn't really work very well. Right, it doesn't sound bad, but it kind of just sounds like you're playing a little accompanying counter melody. What we want to do with double notes in the blues in general is you want to put them above our main melody. So if our melody is, and we put a double note above. Same thing, let's say if our melody is, then I want to go, melody is, right, if our melody is, okay, so this is how I recommend you practice your double notes, is first you practice your scales with double notes held above. And then practice playing a lick and add the double notes after. So repeat the lick that you just played and then add the double notes, just like I was demonstrating there. All right, so listen one more time to this Oscar Peterson solo fill. So we talked about the minor pentatonic scale, the blues scale. We talked about this pattern of moving chromatically from the minor third to the fifth. We talked about these groupings of 2 notes within the triplet feeling. And we talked about adding double notes above blues contact. I hope that you enjoyed that. If you did, go and pick up a book or 3. The Jazz Piano Fundamentals is good for anybody who's still kind of figuring out those basics of learning jazz. But I think it's got something in there for everyone, including for me. If you watched this far, why don't you comment with the word hemiola or dyad? Pick your favorite music nerd word and mention that in the comments. And I appreciate your time and your attention. I'll see you soon.